The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Victoria Jones from Satoshi's Page,
Hello, hello, everyone.
Robert Allen from CoinCube.io.
Hello, everybody. Good to be back.
Later on, we'll be joined by Ben Ark from LN Bits. And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. The price of Bitcoin is currently up 9.13% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 70,195, a high of 71,529, and a low of 60,100 that you can see right here in the chart. Perhaps a V-shaped recovery. That's $1 for 1,423 Satoshis. Pretty low. As it says here in the New York Times, Bitcoin drops to lowest level since Trump was elected as crypto faces slump. The price yesterday was dropping like crazy. No one knew why. Some people think that it was the unwinding of leverage, or perhaps a Hong Kong hedge fund or large individual being completely liquidated all over the market. Victoria Jones, what do you think about the sudden and instant Bitcoin bear market, as well as the last 4 months of the price going down?
Yeah, yesterday was definitely a bit scary. I was sitting in front of the 1 minute candles going, what? I think it was, went down like 10 grand in a day. I was going through to my daughter and going, oh my God, it's another 10, it's another grand and another grand. So at one point it was like 7 grand down, then it was 10 grand down. It was like, when is it going to stop? But fortunately today we seem to have had a remarkable recovery. Although what's interesting is that this is something that's been happening in all of the financial markets. I mean, I'm not quite sure what's going on. As Bitcoiners, we all know that they're pretty wobbly anyway. We've had, gold and silver skyrocketing. Even the stock market was down a bit yesterday. Obviously, a few weeks ago, we had the Japanese yen had a sudden drop, which had an effect on the dollar. So there's definitely more going on than just Bitcoin. Obviously, Bitcoin is seeing the largest effects because we know it's a volatile asset. We've got a number of old OG Bitcoiners who own a lot of Bitcoins. So if one of them decided that they suddenly wanted to sell, that could make a difference. We've also got the fact that, Bitcoin's very financialized now. But they've only just taken steps into that market. And so obviously a lot of the tools that they're using are familiar to them, but it's new to Bitcoin. So, and then obviously you've got the over leveraged players as well. So I think there are a number of things going on. And in addition to that, since October, obviously, we've had the whole forking debate between core and knots. And then just last week, obviously, we've got the release of the Jeffrey Epstein emails, which seems to have created a lot of drama on Twitter, justifiably, as I'm sure we're about to talk about. So yeah, there are a number of factors. I don't think you can pin it down to just one, but I'd say that's an overview from my perspective as to what's happening.
I agree, Victoria. We've had a lot of macro factors, like you said, the yen carry trade unwinding, a lot of fear in the Japanese markets that could spread to other markets. All of the longs and the shorts, we keep saying this, but it does keep happening. They pound it up, the shorts go down, they pound it down, the longs go down. All of these people lose their money, they lose their bets. It's not like when you have the underlying asset. We've also seen trouble in trade with President Trump's trade deals going wrong, the tariffs and so forth, and the jobs report's bad. There's been a lot of larger economic news that's bad. As for Bitcoin, though, we can't seem to figure out. All the news is good. They want to regulate it, all these things. You keep looking at the transactions, all these things are good. But like you said, it just keeps dropping and dropping and dropping. Robert, what do you think about the price of Bitcoin as well as the larger macro factors that are certainly affecting this economy?
I think that paper Bitcoin summer has reaped what we've all sown, or those who were in participating in it. I think Bitcoin becoming financialized is probably overall a net negative. I mean, it might have pumped the price a bit, but the downside is that there's, like if you look at Bitcoin backed loans, for example, there is a essentially a price tag on these Bitcoins that if the price gets low enough, they get liquidated. And so there's an incentive, and a perverse incentive, I think, to try to short and try to push the price down to basically pick up these Bitcoins that are sitting at whatever that liquidation price is. So I think that's overall a negative. I think a lot of people got sucked into that thinking, hey, I can have my cake and eat it too. I even dabbled, I will admit, and I had a Bitcoin back loan at one point. Thankfully, I paid it back, got my Bitcoin back, but I did not feel good during that period, and I don't think I would do it again. I think it's better to live within our means and to be more conservative and to be more careful and ultimately to hold the Bitcoin. If you don't have the keys, it's not your Bitcoin. It's a promise from someone else. So yeah, I think this is kind of like the payback for some bad direction in terms of the industry. And I'm hopeful that we'll get back to peer-to-peer money, which is what Bitcoin, I believe, is clearly supposed to be.
I think there's also the danger of having too much in the market, not being diversified. I know everyone hates diversification, but here we are. When it crashes, you say to yourself, well, what else do I have? Do I have any cash? Do I have any stocks? Do I have anything else that I could sell while I wait for this to recover? Or especially just having a runway, having a few extra months worth of savings is a good idea. That I think a lot of us got caught by surprise on this one and weren't in a good position. So I think it's okay to accept that. It's okay to reset your position as well. Ben Ark, you're joining us. Let's see if you have sound.
Do I have sound, and is it not
All
terrible?
right. Oh, it sounds perfect now. Nothing like rebooting a computer. But
Yay.
what do you think, Ben, about the price of Bitcoin? We've seen great ups. We've seen great downs. Currently, there's a bit of a spike. Could be a dead cat bounce. Could be a complete market reset that changes everything and saves all of our lives. No one knows right now, but
Not a
what
chance.
do you
Not a
think?
chance. Yeah, it's going to dump. We're in the bear market now. And people keep saying they're doing that thing they always do in a bear market where they're like, oh, this is definitely the bottom. All we're going to go up from here. And it's just that dead cat bounce. And we're going to do it past 40. And then we're probably going to go down to like 30. And then when we've all stopped talking about the price and when there's blood in the streets and we're all thoroughly miserable and no one dare mention how low the price is and how miserable everyone is, then and only then will it start going back up. And that's just the way Bitcoin rolls. But yeah, I mean, it's a risk asset. So it's a risk asset. There's less liquidity out there just in the markets generally, which means risk assets go down. Which to Robert's point, we need more utility and commodity use cases and Bitcoin being used as money in order for it not to be affected as a risk asset in the markets. And yeah, it's pretty dire. So, these treasury companies could very easily get liquidated and then that'll flood the market. You've got there's more news and eyes on Bitcoin than there ever has been, and there's more finance in Bitcoin than there ever has been. So the sort of traditional news cycle is going to be bigger than we've ever known. So it's going to be more of a, Bitcoin's crashing news cycle, which then the markets will also react to. And then you've got this, this Bitcoin Epstein connection, which we broke last week, me and you, Thomas, and that has started to make its way into just, the ether, but yeah, outside of Bitcoin as well. So it doesn't make us look very good, even though it's like loads of fake news. But people love in this story that it's that Epstein is Satoshi and all this nonsense. So my son actually sent me an email screenshot, and it was Epstein sending an email to Ghislaine Maxwell saying, this pseudonym Satoshi is really working for us. And he sent it to me saying, is Epstein Satoshi? I was like, no, son, he's not. But someone had sent that to him. And so, I mean, it's everything's against us. But the good news is that when we do hit rock bottom and we stay there for a little while and we're all thoroughly miserable, when the price does then start to tick up again, which it will, of course, it always does, there's more people who know about Bitcoin than there ever has been. The news cycle is going to be bigger than it ever has been. And it works in the opposite direction. And that's when we fire up from 30K to wherever, 400K, wherever, somewhere crazy. And that's just the way Bitcoin works at the moment. So, yeah.
It has been a wild ride. As you said, Ben, there's a potential trouble with MicroStrategy. He could be in danger. CZ of Binance could be in danger. Many saying that they have, oversold the market or perhaps are insolvent. All kinds of allegations flying out there on Twitter. We have to keep an eye on it and see how it goes. It doesn't look like Zoom is showing my video sometimes, which is a great new feature for Zoom. But let's keep going. We've got to go to the exit question. We're predicting against the Bitcoin predictor ball, which knows all. Victoria Jones, we've seen a lot of price movement lately. Do you think the price of Bitcoin will be higher or lower this time next week? But you're muted. Ta-ta.
Sorry about that. It's hard to say. Amidst all the doom and gloom, I'm normally the one cautioning everyone. It's just like, there's a lot of problems here, folks, but, we seem to be having a strong bounce, so I'll go with higher.
Robert Allen, higher or lower?
I'm the eternal Bitcoin optimist. I'm going to say higher.
Ben Ark, higher or lower?
It doesn't matter. It's going lower. I mean, it may bounce up some dead cat bounce, but it's going lower, much lower, much, much lower.
And now I'm muted, asking the Bitcoin predictor ball, will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? I think it might have pushed last week. Let's see. I think it says outlook not so good. Outlook not so good about the price being higher. The ball is it's just slightly pessimistic. So take that for what it's worth. Obviously, you should make all your financial decisions based on the magical 8-ball. Moving on to issue 2. Blockstream has no financial links to Jeffrey Epstein. Adam Back says, last week, right here on the World Crypto Network, Ben and I went live for a quick search between the brand new Jeffrey Epstein emails released by the Department of Justice. We found lots of information about Satoshi and Bitcoin, including links to friend of the show Amir Taki and friend of the show Adam Back. As Kyle Torpy continued the search online, Epstein also met with NYDFS Super Nintendo Ben Lawsky during the development of Bitcoin and crypto regulation known as the Bit License. He also had emails with Gavin and Brian Armstrong and Jason Kalkanis, some saying that Amir and Gavin are crazy open source kids. Brian Armstrong warning that they shouldn't let the crazy early adopters wreck Bitcoin, but all of them with the same theme: Epstein has money and we would like some of it. The internet has responded quite salaciously to these charges, but let's continue the discussion here. Robert Allen, what do you think about Blockstream, Jeffrey Epstein, Coinbase, and well as all of pretty much the early Bitcoiners pretty much included in a lot of these messages?
I'm not surprised. I'm obviously saddened, but I think it's to be expected. If your goal is to replace the money printers of all the central banks, these people are not idiots. Some of them are, I think, but many of them are not, especially those who are kind of behind the scenes. So it makes sense that they would try to compromise key individuals within the Bitcoin community and potentially try to subvert and move the project in a direction that could ultimately kill it or at least neuter it. So it makes a lot of sense to me. I think, from the bit of emails I've seen from Epstein, he seemed to have trouble spelling and remember. I mean, I guess he was juggling a lot to be nice to him. But anyway,
it is interesting the way he seems to email more like people text. Don't you think?
Yeah.
A lot of his emails are like, are you here at 5? Are you here yet? It has a text feeling to it, which is interesting because we all know emails are archived and we all know texts are archived. I don't know what it matters using the email, but it is an interesting flavor of the emails. Yeah.
For sure. So I guess the point I'm making there is for him to get Adam's name wrong, I think is completely feasible, plausible. So I do think, I have sided pretty strongly with the Knots camp in terms of this last debacle. And I think Adam has not really been the Adam that I remember in terms of his responses and sort of his take on all of it. And so I think it is possible that the man has been compromised in some way. So that's kind of how I see it.
Let's go to Ben Ark. What do you think about Adam Back? As we discussed last week, we discovered a lot of early Bitcoiners in the Epstein files. He was a major financier. People looking to get money is how it read to us. But Ben, you've seen more on the internet this week. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was quite disappointed with how bad people's research skills, because you and I, Thomas, I think you, Thomas, were the one who found the actual reference to Andy Back being on the island. And when you lined up all the dates, they met in April, whenever, of, I think it's 2014, in St. Thomas. And then from what it seems, which is right next to Epstein's Island, and then from what it seems, they then traveled across to Little St. James by the 19th of April. And that's when Epstein met emails Amir Taki and says, "Oh, I'm here with Andy Back." But it took, no one else seemed to pick that up. Like, and I even watched a video where people were like, "We haven't found any confirmation that Adam Back was actually on the island." It's like, there is an email right there. But I thought Adam Back's response...
It was fun to watch it drip out, Ben. Like, the information slowly came out, and it was like 3 days later, they finally found the Andy Back message. Whereas, as you and I were reading it, it was really quick to say, oh, this is signed Amir Taki, but it says it's from an alias. Well, let's search for the alias. Oh, we got about 12 messages. This will take, 10 minutes to read. Yeah. And we had that right away, that not only Andy Back, but also this kind of familiar relationship that we had with, I won't show my picture, but this familiar
Austin
relationship where, Hill, he thought he could cure cancer. So he BCCs Epstein. He's like, while I can cure cancer, I should tell the money about it. Amir gets this friendly message from Epstein like, hey, you still doing this Bitcoin thing? I got Andy Back out at my island, very friendly. And then the rest of them are a lot of this, like, people sending him articles, hey, have you heard about this? Have you heard about this? Which is just like if you knew the big boss CEO and you're trying to butter him up to get the investment, you would send him articles, you would treat him this way. It's interesting to read someone's email that, we know to be this horrible person, of course, from the trials and such, but at the time had such gravitas. And then we can, if we want to go deeper, we can say, well, he was accused of this or he was convicted of this, and should they still been giving him this gravitas? But clearly money talks, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the amount of kiss-assery in those emails is excruciating. And then back to the point on the emails and how informal they are, I feel like, I don't know, maybe I've been trying too hard. I've been too much of a tryhard in my emailing. And really, the billionaire meta move is just to be all sloppy and bad punctuation and bad spelling and short emails. It's like, oh, I'm too busy for this shit. Okay, yeah, whatever. But I think Amir Taki's response was my favorite because, God bless him, because I posted about it and then he was intrigued. They hadn't heard about it at that point. And then he kind of went back over the story and he said that, this basically a billionaire was offering some money when they didn't have any money. And then whoever the CEO was at the time, not no name now, I don't think, he went out to meet Epstein and then came back and said, yeah, this dude's creepy in a sleaze, so let's not go anywhere near him. And so Amir Taki kind of gets off scot-free, like he made the right decision. And then my favorite tweet from him was he just tweeted out, "I'm Epstein, famous biatches," like this. And I thought it was a great tweet. Like, he was owning it. He was owning the fact he was in the files, but also, in a good light. And I think on the Adam Back thing, like, when you do a raise, it's a very disorientating process. I'm not going to be an apologist or anything, but they're raising 18 million. Epstein was initially 50K, and then it went up to 500K. Which is a relatively small check for the 18 million. And due diligence on a smaller check from an investor, it's that thing where, this guy's a billionaire, the people have promoted him and said he's a good dude. Like, there is a lack of due diligence for smaller checks in the investment world when it comes to companies, especially from a CTO. Like, we're doing a raise in Allen Bits, and our CTO hasn't done any due diligence checks against any of our investors. That's my job, isn't it? So,
well,
really,
especially,
to me,
Ben, if they're trying to get their first investment, you have to.
Yeah, exactly. And this is 2014 as well, when no one cared about Bitcoin.
Everyone hates Bitcoin. Everyone thinks it's pirate money and all these things. And you want your very first investment. Yeah, it would be hard to say you're doing a lot of due diligence.
And the Blockstream raise at that time was a big deal. 18 million was a lot of money for a Bitcoin company to raise. So yeah, I mean, to me, the emails looked like the CTO who got rolled out, Adam Back, the CTO, got rolled out to the billionaire by this Austin Hill guy, and the Austin Hill guy was somewhat enamored with the billionaire. And then communication between Adam Back and Epstein then pretty much dropped off. And then later on, they disassociated from the investment was done through Joy from MIT Labs, because I think they're investing in Zcash or something. So there's like a conflict of interest. So they got rid of the investment anyway, but that for a different reason. Now, I think the real question, which no one seems to be asking, which I think is really important, is Epstein was involved in Bitcoin early on, clearly interested and invested in a Bitcoin company. I did find an email from Jeremy Rubin mentioning Epstein's holdings in Bitcoin and the tax situation. Epstein clearly was very interested in favorable tax in New York. Where are his coins? Like, there will be some coins out there. There is a wallet some out there owned by a billionaire who's clearly interested in this new technology. He was an investor in emerging technologies. Clearly spent a lot of time, and if it's people give Blockstream a lot of crap, but if you look through his emails, there's investor reports from Coinbase, there's Blockchain Capital, there's a whole bunch of different investor reports. So he was investing in a lot of companies in Bitcoin, and he did invest in emerging technologies. So that would make sense. And there's always blockchain stuff at the time about how you could use it with, patient records and whatever else. So I could see why it appealed to everything which would appeal to him. But where's his wallet? Like, where's the money? Why can't I find his Bitcoin seed in those emails, Thomas? I've looked. I can't find it.
It hasn't also been reassuring to see all the companies say, oh, we didn't have investment from Epstein. We didn't have investment. But like you say, Ben, he just invests through another company. He invests through Joy Ito. He invests through the Garage or Studio Garage, all these different kind of startup companies. And then they invested in Coinbase.
Which happens now. Like, if you follow the money where some of these VCs get their money from, which they're investing in Bitcoin companies, it's a murky world. It's a murky finance. High finance in general is very murky, and there's lots of creeps in it. But yeah, there's a lot of money being proxied through different vehicles, and that existed then and it exists now. Yeah.
I don't think it's, to me, such a problem that these companies received investment from Epstein. Like you say, money's funneled through different entities. It's hard to keep track of all this stuff. I think where I would be more concerned is the fact that it looks like he went to the island, and we know that they were blackmailing people on this island. And, if you, again, like I said earlier, if you want to subvert or try to control or manipulate Bitcoin in the direction of the project, clearly this is the game that these folks play. And so I really am concerned. And I think, again, based on his behavior in the last few years, it doesn't track with, block size wars, Adam. It doesn't. To me, it feels like the block size wars people would be on the side of knots, and he's clearly not. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I won't get into the whole debate about between core and knots, because I'm pretty much in the other camp on it. But I do think that if you look at Bitcoin now, free and open source, any free and open source technology project, if it's done properly, it's a sausage made in public. It's horrendous to look at, but you end up with a beautiful sausage, don't you? So, and that's what Bitcoin is, and that's why it's so ugly a lot of the time. And there's these battles which happen, but there's this rumor that Epstein's Satoshi, and then the outside world looks into Bitcoin and they see this civil war between the Knots people, who are pretty extreme, and Luke Dasher is a colorful character in his own right, and then you have these connections with people going to the Epstein Island, and then people saying that Epstein's Satoshi. So yeah, it's a shit show when you look at it. We need this news to just blow over, and yeah.
It does seem like a lot of that is too convenient. Like, you have this opponent and you don't like your opponent, and then your opponent goes to this thing and you're like, suddenly my opponent's a child molester. Like, it would be great if your opponents all ended up to be child molesters, but it seems a lot more straightforward. I don't know when we're going to come to this. I think with the upcoming Clinton public hearings, there's going to be some kind of attempt to draw a line between friends of Epstein early, which I think Clinton is going to say, and friends of Epstein later. And then Bill Gates is going to straddle both sides of these lines. Other people are going to be friends early, friends later. It seems President Trump was friends at all times, most times. So they're going to have a whole timeline thing on that. But let's go to Victoria Jones.
One more thing as well. Like, Adam Back is just he's like a tech dork. And you know, me and my conference, I'd be hung out in conferences with him a whole bunch, and he just wants to come up, talk about tech stuff. He might turn up at the bar and say hello to people, but then he's gone earlier than anyone else, gets a good night's sleep. He just cares about the technology, and that's his thing. And I can personally, I imagine when he went to the island, and after 2 days, Epstein's still going, calling him Andy. And I bet it was an excruciating experience for. I think Austin Hill was probably having a better time, like a fun time. But I think with Bad and Back, I think he was a fish out of water. They just rolled out the CTO, the big brain, and then that was it. He didn't go back. I mean, that's how I kind of interpreted the whole string of emails.
We're also seeing some separation between having going to Epstein's Island for a meeting versus going for one of these parties. Elon Musk clearly wants to go for the party, not the meeting. Other people might be having meetings. Again, it's all up to them to say. And as Ben was saying, all those coins disappeared. I wonder what happened to all the video, because we hear there was a lot of video, a lot of blackmail, potentially other countries involved. And I agree with Robert. What a dangerous place for a CEO to be. The potential of blackmail, the potential of girls being sent in, drugs, all kinds of things. You have no idea. So if Adam Back went there and did nothing, it's fantastic, but obviously very dangerous. Victoria Jones, what do you think? We talked a lot about this issue this week.
Yeah, I think you have to be very careful in situations where people have kind of been given a halo for certain reasons, because there's always a danger of cognitive dissonance, especially when something comes out of the woodwork that completely blindsides you, that you're not expecting. And, you know, the one thing I think the Epstein emails have witnessed to us is just how many lies have been going on. I mean, there was a short clip of an interview with Lubnik where he would swear blind on his mother's grave that he never in a million years wanted to have anything to do with Epstein. And of course, you know, in the moment, his protests come across incredibly genuine. And then, of course, these emails come out and he's all over the place. And
I believe that was the one, though, where didn't he go with his wife and his kids?
well, that's what he was
And
saying. You know, he visited
again,
with his
that
wife.
creates complications, as I think Robert was saying. He could be, taken to a side room. Anything could happen on purpose, or be lured into not wanting these things. His wife and kids could be there on the island. Horrible things could be happening next door. It's not an excuse. It's not a. Even Elon Musk is traveling with Tallulah. I don't know who that is, but he was still looking for the best day/night, wildest party on your island. Horribly embarrassing emails for all involved, certainly.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's very easy to kind of make excuses. The point is, we just don't know. You know, there are definitely a whole bunch of lies going on. And, you know, at the moment, you are kind of damned by association, especially when, you know, once you dig into these stories a bit more, you know, it's not just about Jeffrey Epstein having sex with 16-year-olds. It goes much deeper than that. So, you know, and the point of the whole thing is it's about blackmailing powerful people. And the thing is, when you're blackmailed, you resist talking about stuff. And if you are going to be blackmailed, of course, you know, maybe your role is to, you know, inculcate yourself into these communities. You know, wouldn't it be interesting if the one person everyone was hero worshipping turned out to be the devil all along? You just don't know. You just don't know. And isn't it interesting that the big debate that we've got between Core and Knots is all about CSAM, which is directly to do with what Jeffrey Epstein is connected to. So, you know, I think it's really, really hard when there are people you're close to, people that you've learned to love, suddenly turn out to be who you never thought that they were at all. It's really, really shocking. And it's a hard thing to get your head around. And that's not to say that, you know, Adam is guilty, but I don't think you should assume he's innocent either. I think there's too much information there that we just don't know enough yet.
Well, we certainly know one thing. All of those emails was a great advertisement for scheduling software. Most of them are about, will you be here? When will you be here? What time is the helicopter? There's got to be a better solution. And that's why this episode is brought to you by, no, I don't have a sponsor, but wouldn't that be great if we had software that fixed that problem? I'm sure AI will do it for us. But let's move on to the exit question. Will anything happen? Will the release of these Epstein emails lead to actual change? Mainly, I'm talking about Adam Back stepping down as CEO, something like that? I don't think so, but let's ask the panel. Robert, will there be actual change based on the emails? Yes or no?
Unless there's more that comes out, I would probably say, yeah, he'll just deny and I mean, and again, we don't know, and to Ben's point, it's yeah, he strikes me as, quite nerdy, tech focused, reasonable kind of guy that is probably not doing that sort of stuff. But that doesn't mean that he couldn't have been compromised, right? Like he could have been drugged, and then they put him in a room with an underage person and they take photos. So maybe he wasn't actually trying to do anything seedy and doesn't do that sort of thing, but you can still compromise someone in that kind of environment. And so that would be more my concern for a person like Adam. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Again, I think if more comes out, possibly, but based on what we know now, there's a decent amount of plausible deniability, so I doubt that he would step down based on what we know.
It is very much like a scene out of Godfather 2, where the senator is in the prostitution house and he wakes up with a bottle and he says, "Where am I? What's going on?" And fortunately, Michael Corleone, the Godfather, has helped the senator out. So you have no idea what could have happened to Adam Back or to Ludwig or anyone else who went near this island or near those emails. Bill Gates obviously lost his wife. We don't know the details, but it must have been bad. Ben Ark, what do you think? Will there be lasting change, specifically Adam Back stepping down as CEO? Yes or no?
I don't think. I mean, there's nowhere near enough evidence. He was just rolled out as CTO, and that's pretty much where the connection ends. I mean, with Austin Hill, I know that he stepped down as CEO back in the day, from Blockstream, and then Adam Back assumed the CEO role. And from what I hear, it was because he just wasn't, in touch with the technology enough. So Adam Back always ended up having to explain everything anyway, and it just made more sense that Adam Back was CEO. There might have been something else going on there, but I don't want to spread rumors or speculate as to why Austin Hill stepped down. But yeah, he's Adam Back, man. I don't think he's going anywhere personally. Maybe the board will try and get him out. The board of Blockstream, they've got a lot of investors, they got a lot of board members. Maybe if there's enough heat on him, maybe they'll think that it was just going to impact too negatively on the company. But from what evidence there is, if there was some, like Robert was saying, if there's some really damning, material out there, then yeah, it would change. But from the evidence we have now, I don't think he's going anywhere now. And hopefully it'll all blow over for him, because I imagine it's an incredibly stressful time. And at that point in time, in 2014, he was probably flying all over the place, meeting all sorts of creepo billionaires, trying to raise money for Blockstream. That's just kind of the nature of a raise. You rarely do the due diligence before you meet the person. You meet the person because they've been recommended by somebody else, and then you sort of assess them. And then if they're going to invest, you do the due diligence. So, yeah, hopefully it'll be all right. And I do hope that nothing else comes out.
I know it's hard to see now, Ben, but this could even be a blessing in disguise for Adam Back. I think he's tired of giving speeches. I think he's tired of being the front face of Blockstream, and maybe they have to pull him back because of this. He gets to stay home, sit on the couch. Unfortunately, his reputation takes a hit, but maybe in actual, time, he doesn't have to do these speeches. I didn't seem too into it at the Bitcoin Vegas convention. Victoria Jones, what do you think? Exit question, yes or no? Will we see lasting change, specifically Adam Back stepping down as CEO of Blockstream?
Unfortunately, I think we will. If you witness what's happened to Prince Andrew over in Britain every time he's connected with, I mean, I know it's not the same kind of thing. There's not the same direct evidence, but it's like literally every time there's a news story of him being connected to Jeffrey Epstein, his life just gets worse and worse and worse. I think it's very unfortunate for Adam Back. I really do. And I think there's such strong feeling about this in certain sections of the community that I don't think he's going to get away with it. He certainly hasn't been proactive in coming forward in talking about his exposure to Epstein before all of this came out. Often I think you can maybe get a heads up on these things if you're honest and forthright about it ahead of time. The other people whose names have come up in the Epstein files, like Michael Saylor and Amir Taki, seem to have, been reflected well from the content. But unfortunately, that's not the case for Adam. I think it's very unfortunate for him. I really do.
It is very bad for the former prince. There was a new photograph leaked in the new Epstein files of him kind of on all fours over a perhaps passed out young woman. It doesn't look good, former Prince Andrew. And potentially, we don't know what's going to happen. There are millions and millions more pages of files. According to law, they should be released. We don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. If they do, I guess we'll search them for Bitcoin. It turned out,
I mean,
not fun, but it turned out interesting last time. Yes, Ben?
on those files, like if you were releasing the files and in some way you'd been implicated in the files, you would leave that lot till last, wouldn't you? So I can just imagine there's 3 million emails from Epstein to Trump. That's, they're saving all that stuff for the end.
Maybe we'll finally see all those videos. They say they took, tons and tons of videos from the house, servers and servers, cameras and cameras and cameras. Because originally, and it's so hard to remember back because obviously, the CSAM part of this, the underage part of this, mainly this was told to us as a blackmail campaign against rich and powerful people, that they would be entrapped, they would be blackmailed. And to blackmail someone, you need to have a video or an image or an audio recording or something, right? I don't want to see it, but President Bill Clinton, President Donald Trump, other people perhaps allegedly included in these files. We don't know what's going to happen, but the Department of Justice is supposed to release them. We'll see what happens. Moving on, check out worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got 4,746 videos. You could watch them for 3 months, 23 days, and 13 hours straight. Whoa. Check it out at worldcryptonetwork.com. Issue 3, crypto bill talks picking up in Senate, allegedly, after clearing a key vote. I wish I had that button set for like ha 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 ha. Let's see. Oh, no, it has many buttons, but not ha ha ha. But anyway, key vote in the crypto bill. Seems like the crypto bill is about stalled, as we mentioned previously. Banks want to kill stablecoin interest. Stablecoin interest could be about 5%. Banks offer you 0.1%. It's obvious why they don't want that competition. Additionally, the new fight seems to be Democrats attempting to block politicians from becoming crypto kingpins. The obvious problem, the current president and his family are crypto kingpins. Victoria Jones, what do you think about the crypto bill, which, like everything else, has become about the president and his family?
I think it's crazy. I mean, the thing is, the whole idea of something like Bitcoin is that it completely disrupts how the fiat system works, and governments literally are the arbiters of the fiat system. So, the two systems are completely incompatible. One's designed to disrupt the other. So the idea of having, a law in the country in order to control something on crypto, which is all Bitcoin based, is just nuts. It really is. And it's, for the average person who doesn't understand what crypto is all about, it's probably hard to get their head around that. And unfortunately, many financiers, they spend their life just focusing on how the existing system works. Most of them have forgotten any pages that they were given at university about financial history and how the financial system actually works, to such an extent that they're now in their own bubble in terms of how finance works. And they believe that they're all powerful. They don't even understand how Bitcoin has the potential to disrupt what it is they do. Laws are meaningless unless you've got the resources to actually enforce those laws. And in order to force those laws, you need the money. And so, you need the fiat system in order to be able to force those laws. By Bitcoin disrupting that system, we need a whole new legal system as well, and a new way in which the world works. Now, obviously, there's going to be a transition if Bitcoin does become what we think it's going to be. There has to be a transition period between how the fiat system works at the moment and how Bitcoin's going to work eventually. So we've got time to work that out. But it doesn't surprise me at all that there's conflict in this crypto bill, because there's so much misunderstanding that is around in the top echelons of government. And even though there are a lot of crypto enthusiasts trying to explain it to government, most of them don't understand it either. So the whole thing's a nightmare. So, I'm glad that a few people are pushing back on this, even if that is imperfect. I'd be very surprised if they sort it out in the near future. And if they do, it's likely to be a disaster.
I definitely agree, Victoria, with the regulation as kind of a cyberpunk or whatever, cypherpunk. You only really care that code is law, what's encrypted, what you can and can't break. It doesn't matter the rest of this. There is some theory that regulation makes the price go up. So everyone wants that. Of course, we all want out of this horrible trap of price being down. But the other side of this, and you'd think that the libertarians who've been with us so long, who now surprisingly are wearing MAGA hats, would know and would believe that regulation basically creates walls against competition. Coinbase wants regulation because they've done a lot of work to become the regulated exchange. And what they really want is to block all future competitors against their exchange. So if regulation is good for Coinbase, it's not good for you. We've also seen the banks, who are even bigger than Coinbase, trying to lock in protections against this stablecoin interest. Again, protections, not markets, not, wild and crazy. We see what happens, but we rig the game to have certain winners, those winners being Coinbase and the banks. So not a fan of the bill, but I also think that it's basically dead, not going anywhere. They've shelved it. This trouble with Trump and his businesses is too complex to be solved by the current negotiating groups. So I think they're going to shelve it and forget about it. There will be no bill. Robert, what do you think about the crypto bill, the trouble with Trump's companies, and regulation in general?
Well, I would say that first of all, I'm a libertarian and I'm not wearing a MAGA hat, so we're not all doing that. But yeah, I'm glad that it looks like it might be dead. I generally would prefer that governments leave us alone and stop trying to impose uh, nonsensical laws and regulations on, as Victoria said, a technology that doesn't care what any politician or individual thinks. And ultimately, if we are successful in this uh, mission we've all decided to take on, yeah, these laws will eventually be irrelevant, even if they are passed. Um, and yeah, as Victoria also said, you need financial resources to enforce laws. The system looks like it's 5, 10, 20. At some point, it's going to collapse under its own weight, and we're going to transition away. And so a lot of this stuff is, um, in some ways, it's going to matter less and less as time progresses, I think. And we will probably end up uh, more like, for example, in Nigeria, the government says all sorts of things and there's all sorts of laws. But when you're living there on the ground, there's like the official way, and then there's the way that things are actually accomplished. And these two things are, these two ways are really not all that much related. And so out of necessity, in other words, the market will route around the destructive imposition of control over money, which, governments have no business telling people how or where they should be able to spend their money. And so, yeah, anyway, glad it's dead, or at least seemingly so. And that's my take.
It does seem funny if you think back to a more kind of cartoonish take, and imagine, of course, we're going to see the new movie, The Odyssey, and we're looking forward to it. But imagine the Trojan horse being pulled up to the walls, and the banks and the existing crypto exchanges have a big, negotiating table, and they have all their negotiations, and they say, okay, we're going to let the Trojan horse in. And then the Greeks come out of the horse and murder everyone. Like, you can't let that horse in. Like, I know everyone's like, oh, we're going to put restrictions on it, and we're going to make sure that Coinbase is the winner, or our buddies at JP Morgan or whoever it is, they're going to be the pre-chosen winners. You just can't let this Trojan horse inside your walls. But they've given up on that. They don't see it as competition. The new Fed chair says that Bitcoin's more of a like a weather vane, tells him where the market's going, rather than like a competition or a currency, which is great. If he wants to believe that, that's fantastic. Ben Ark, what do you think about the regulation and the battle for the crypto bill?
Yeah, it is funny how they lump stable coins in with Bitcoin because yeah, Bitcoin's like exists as an opt-out protest money, and then back in the day, so people could flop out to something stable when they were trading. You know, the stable coins and Tether emerged as a sort of necessary technology because there were unregulated markets and unregulated exchanges, and we just needed something to like be to go into to be stable for a bit while we were going back and forth between Bitcoin and stable coins in order to trade. And now these stable coins have done quite well for themselves. And with the Genius Act, the idea of them being backed by things like T-bills as a way of buying up like US debt. And if you think about the US's success over the past, however many years, it has been because it flooded the world economy with US dollars. And that's how it was able to be the world reserve currency. So encouraging the use of stable coins in the USDT, US stable coins out there, it just kind of makes sense from a policy point of view. But you are also just like putting the privatizing money for the relatively unregulated banks, and I know that they're asking for more regulation. It's a very fishy thing. Did anyone watch the Epstein interview with Steve Bannon? I thought it was really interesting, though, because there was a few parts of it which were quite insightful, which you never really want to hear when you're listening to someone as detestable as him. But there was a part of it with the when he was talking about the 2008 crisis, and then what caused it, and he was saying, well, he had an interesting theory as to what caused it, but he was saying that no one really knows. He said that the economy is an incredibly complex thing. And then in retrospect, when something breaks, you can look at it and say, well, this caused it and that caused it. But at the time, you don't know what's causing it. And you don't know all the different variables which can go to causing it. And he compared the economy to a kind of a human body repeatedly during the interview. But I thought it was kind of a really interesting take. And going back to the Epstein thread. But I think that's one of the major concerns is you let this new thing in, which the whole system isn't like ready for yet. What impact and damage will it have on just the wheels of the economy? Like, it just feels like kind of a risky move. And then for the banking sector, they're like, yeah, these things offer this insane yield, which we can't compete with. And then why are they offering that insane yield? And is it legitimate and is it fully liquid? And so I think it's important to be cautious. But then I suppose the other worry is that the US will just fall behind when it comes to some other country like China will just create some stablecoin. Everyone will start using that for trade. I do like stable medium of exchange. I've said it a million times on this show, and I think we need it, but it needs to be built on Bitcoin. It needs to be built in some cool decentralized way. Using some crazy cool technology, contract multi-sig technology, like a vault or something to keep a peg. I think that's good. Like, we need stable medium of exchange for money, but these like privately issued monies like Tether, I don't think are the way. And I think it's important that people are cautious over them.
It is unsatisfying, the economic explanation that they provide, Ben. Beforehand, they say that it's one thing. Afterwards, they say that it's another thing. They interview all these people. They say Bitcoin's going to the moon. But then we have our black swan or whatever it is the last 4 months. They're saying now it could be one large liquidation. It could be a Hong Kong hedge fund. It could be all of the exchanges selling Bitcoin against us. Or there's even, like you said, with the body and the virus and the fear, there's a 1929 stock market fear that everyone thinks there's a big crash out there and they could get ahead of the big crash, which on the internet just spreads and spreads and spreads. And then everyone's like, I'm going to be the one who gets ahead of the big crash. But really, they're causing the big crash. So it is. And we never know till afterwards. And even afterwards, we don't even really know. We can't trace it as well as we'd like. Unlike with weather, where we could just measure how much rain there was, and then we know. Well, let's move on to issue 4. Issue 4, Bitcoin demand in Nancy Guthrie disappearance shows how crypto is becoming a more frequent feature of physical crimes. The shocking disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, took a new twist as TMZ reported receiving a ransom letter. CBS affiliate KOLD also received a similar letter demanding millions of dollars to be paid in Bitcoin. There was an update to this story. I believe that the person who sent the Bitcoin ransom was shown to be false and was arrested for sending the ransom. So it's not necessarily Bitcoin related. We still don't know who took this mother of the Today Show lady. It's still unsolved. But Bitcoin and crime do seem tethered together. As we've said, the Bitcoin ATMs continue ripping people off as they get the phone calls with the angry people that convince them to send their money through the thing. Victoria Jones, are we seeing a return to Bitcoin as crime? Will we see the banks start to back away as more and more ransoms and kidnappings and old people losing all their money and horrible things are tied to Bitcoin, which we know is just money, but other people will use this as a disadvantage?
Well, I think any criminal that's using Bitcoin for a ransom is just stupid, because there've been plenty of occasions now where people who've done that, because that wallet address is going to be traced for decades, if not centuries. You'd never properly get away with it. You might in the moment, and you might for a while. I mean, it was like the whole Bitfinex hack. 10 years later, they've got a whole documentary how they've managed to track down the perpetrators of that. So yeah, I mean, someone who's doing that is really dumb. So, I mean, okay, there are privacy issues with Bitcoin that some people are trying to get around, and you can use things like coin joins and stuff to make the coins anonymous. But even so, it's still hard to actually use that money unless it's it's been KYC'd at some point. I know we're still in the early stages of that, and I'm not advocating for KYC either. I think these issues are complex, but just the fact that you can follow the pattern of money gives out a lot of information, even if you don't know exactly who it's tied to in the moment. So I'd be very surprised if it ends up becoming a trend. It happens from time to time because people don't fully understand Bitcoin. They don't fully understand the tool they're using, and they don't understand the vulnerabilities either, because, these stories aren't as common as you think. If it was that successful, everyone would be using it for that already, and they're not. They're using it for something else. And if you're honest and genuine with it, then, you are still in a place where you can use it successfully at the moment. But criminals are not going to get away with that.
Unfortunately, I also thought the Bitcoin ransom was too good to be true. And not that it's a good thing, but I always also like it when Bitcoin's mentioned in any news story. There's no such thing as bad press. So I saw it and I instantly thought what turned out to be true, that the guy was probably faking. Wouldn't it be great if you could not kidnap someone, put an address up someone, they send you $1 million and you just walk away with the million? You didn't even kidnap anybody. They just sent you $1 million. Oh, it would be awesome. But yeah, it seemed kind of ridiculous, but it is exciting to have Bitcoin mentioned. And there is now a real world bias that's forming with these ATMs ripping off the old people and the, I don't know, mentally feeble. I don't know what you want to say. People who get suckered, they get scammed. That's going to keep happening. That's going to keep being a problem for Bitcoin. Robert, what do you think about the Bitcoin ransom? Later turned out not to be true, but it's always nice to be mentioned in an ongoing number one story. Kind of nice.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that people are either doing this or pretending or trying to use an event to, like you said, walk away with a cool mill in Bitcoin. So I'm not surprised, and I think it's actually, I would disagree with Victoria. And I think this will continue, and it'll likely increase in number and size and so on and so forth, just because Bitcoin is becoming it is being monetized. And so today I'm sure there's lots of incidents where people are demanding cash in ransom cases and things like that. And that doesn't make the news because it's just, of course, you're going to ask for cash, right? But as Bitcoin replaces the existing financial system, I would expect that the percentage, of incidents like this would go up. But maybe at some point we won't hear about as much of it just because it'll be more commonplace because Bitcoin is money, right? And so that's kind of my feeling is it's kind of inevitable. And yeah, of course you can trace Bitcoin on the main chain to some degree, but there's layer twos that are available now that you can use potentially if you know what you're doing to move some Bitcoin and hide it. And where there's a will, there's a way. People will find ways around So it's not as easy. I mean, my parents were robbed, and we don't have the Bitcoin back. By an American, most likely. It looks like someone in Detroit was able to, basically socially engineer my dear old parents and rob them from their Blockstream wallet. Thanks, Blockstream, for building a product that did not protect the money. But so anyway.
It is amazing how easy it is for people to get scammed out of their money, and it just keeps happening more and more from different attack vectors. Social engineering definitely a part of it. Ben Ark, what do you think about Bitcoin and ransom? It's a regular Big Lebowski type event. As Robert was saying, this could be in our advertisements for Bitcoin. If you're going to collect a ransom, don't use cash, use crypto.
Yeah, very sorry to hear that, Robert. That's horrible that your parents had to go through that. But I mean, like, yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword with any technology which gives people more liberty. It will then empower criminals to do criminal things. The internet, whatever, like any technology, and that's why Bitcoin has always been a favorite, or has, yeah, pretty much always been a favorite since it emerged. For use by criminals, and then there's these criminal scammers now as well, which are trying to just get as many sats as they can from wherever they can. I will also say that I would say 90% of the scammers out there and criminals out there, it's like, some slaves in the Golden Triangle, who are being forced to just scam people. And then North Korea, like, we're constantly being attacked on our servers from people trying to get our Bitcoin. And, they're always infiltrating our groups and DMing people, pretending to be us. We have in our Telegram group for LM Bits, got a few thousand people in there. We have like, in the name of the Telegram group, it's like LM Bits. We will not DM you. And if you get a DM from anyone from kind of the core LM Bits group, which sounds professional, it's not us. Because quite often they'll reach out to people and say, "Oh, this is professional support," and blah, blah, blah. And they send these incredibly professional sounding messages to people. And it's not us. It's like, it's some slave in the Golden Triangle just trying to accumulate sats, and in North Korea too. I would say 90% is, state-sponsored organized crime, big offices of people just trying to scam people. I remember back in the day, I think it wasn't that long ago, it was like 2020 or something, where I remember me and Jeff were talking, we were saying, because we had a whole bunch of projects, and we very rarely found bugs and exploits because people just didn't attack our stuff because they liked it. And there was this issue it's something you've always had with Linux, like in free and open source things. They get exploited less because people respect them and like them, whereas they hated Microsoft, so they would always attack Microsoft software. And it was kind of similar just with Bitcoin and the stuff we were building. Like, even though there was all these honeypots everywhere, the attacks were pretty minimal. I would say it's the opposite now. I would say that we're constantly getting hammered, and that's ultimately probably not a bad thing for the things we build because it hardens them. There was this incredible live stream I saw, and it was on Twitter, and it was some kid doing a live stream, shitcoin trading. And for a brief second, it was on Twitter this week, for a brief second, his seed was on the screen. And then within like a few seconds, his wallets were just emptied of all his shitcoins. And then this kid just has a rage quit and starts smashing up his keyboard and swearing, and his brother comes running in or something. So yeah, I mean, they monitor all the live streams. They've got all the software running. Like, be careful. Like, people are trying to get bearer assets are hard things to keep. They're slippery, and they're easy to drop. They're easy for other people to pick up. So just be very careful out there, and keep your coins secure. But there's ultimately good work being done on different ways in which you can secure your coins. But I just ultimately hope that there was a thing, we used to talk a lot about, how Bitcoin was kind of framed as criminal money. And I think it was 2019 when you had the NHS hack in the UK where, and there's ransomware, where the story wasn't Bitcoin is the criminal money. It was more, there's some criminals who've done this ransomware and they want Bitcoin. And then there was some explanation as to what Bitcoin is. And they weren't saying that Bitcoin was the criminal technology. It was just like a technology which they wanted or preferred. And I think that's been, the main narrative when it comes to crime and Bitcoin these days is it's not criminal money. It's just used by criminals. And I hope that continues, because obviously it isn't criminal money. And then people who do hear about Bitcoin, I hope they go and binge watch Andreas Antonopoulos videos and like learn about, all the reasons that we think Bitcoin is cool and important. Um, and then they learn about, the promise of Bitcoin beyond these scammers and, con artists and whoever else is just trying to steal your coins.
Well, for the record, while I don't think Bitcoin becoming criminal money again will be good, I do think that it's inevitable that we're going to go through an acceptance period where the banks try to co-opt it and control it like they have every other technology. And when they fail, they'll have no choice but declare it as criminal money. And then we'll go through this cycle all over again. And everyone will be all surprised. And they'll say, no one could have predicted this. No one ever could have. But we're running out of time for this show. Let's go to Robert. He's got a major announcement about CoinCube.io. Go ahead, Robert.
Oh, well, thank you, Thomas. Yeah, so I guess tying into my parents' sad story, I had been planning to move their funds to a multi-sig setup. They were using the two key Blockstream product where they hold a key on their server, right? And there's a key on the phone. I think their iPhone was hacked somehow. Probably, my dad clicked on something and they were able to get access to the phone. And then they socially engineered him into giving them the 4-digit PIN that unlocked the wallet. And then from there, they were able to drain it. So, yeah, it's really unfortunate. But out of that, and also other experiences I've had, and just my history in Bitcoin, and also got married and had a son. And so, I'm thinking more and more about inheritance and what the future looks like for my family. And so I decided to find a good solution. I found a product called Liana, which basically is the foundation of what I built, what I'm building. So I forked that product, forked that wallet. But yeah, I mean, it's a good product. Obviously, I wouldn't have taken it and forked it if I didn't think it was. But there's just a lot that I want to add and kind of a vision I have to build. And so I ended up just running with it. So anyway, what I built so far, and it is available and you can download it. It's of course the software is open source, forked from Liana, added a liquid wallet. So I'm using the Breeze SDK for that. So you can send and receive Bitcoin over Lightning, Liquid, or on chain. And that's a spending wallet, so you don't want to hold a lot of money there. It's using a hotkey on the computer. So just keep that in mind. But for depending on your wealth, maybe a couple hundred to a couple $1,000s, you may not be too stressed about holding some money in that, and it makes it very easy to use day to day. And then there's the Liana product, which is basically now what I'm calling Vault. And so it's a multi-sig, and it has time lock using it uses time lock. So essentially, you can have a second or a third spending path, and that only opens up if the coins haven't been moved for a certain amount of time. So sort of like a dead man switch, and very cool feature. And so the idea would be if you pass on to the next life, you could have some inheritance keys that are held by family or friends or whoever, and they have access to those after a certain amount of time has gone by. We're building another feature that's going to like connect to that I'm calling keychain, but it'll basically be a way to very easily create private keys for Bitcoin on a mobile device. Again, I wouldn't use that as your only key. Obviously, mobile phones can be hacked, but in a quorum of keys, I think it's not an unreasonable thing to have a couple on different mobile devices, and that would make it very easy for family. You can send your mom a link. She can install an app, create a key, and then that key is basically available to the wallet software using our API. Um, and then finally, there's a buy sell feature that should be working in most jurisdictions. We've got a little bit of work to test that out. It's kind of difficult to test, but you should be able to buy and sell through obviously got a KYC with one of the liquidity providers. And that's actually the same integration method that Blockstream uses for their app. It's Meld is the company that we're partnering with on that. And but anyway, it's been really fun to build it. I'm proud of what we've done so far. I've got a great team, mostly based in Africa, where I've been living now for a few years. Nigerian and Kenyan developers, a lot of really smart young people working with me. And but yeah, people should take a look and check it out. More to come, soon. As I said, Keychain is a product feature that we're going to be adding probably within a few months, and so more to come. But yeah, be happy to have people take a look and give me feedback. And that's I guess that's it.
Well, it sounds super cool, Robert. It'd be great to time lock your Bitcoins and have an inheritance, a long term holding strategy rather than what we see so much of short term, or the minute you put something on the exchange, you're probably going to sell it. And it's a lot better than what I heard in the past. People were giving pieces of their keys to their friends and scattering their keys all over the world. And sounds very dangerous. It's very dangerous to memorize your own keys, even printing them in metal, putting them under the house, things like this. Be much better to have an online solution, have some options. So sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
It goes into what we were talking about before, that there's all this great innovation work being done on different ways in managing keys. And I love the way that you put time locking in there, because I mean, time locking is probably the most underused resource which we have in Bitcoin. Being able to time lock coins and yeah, it's really cool. I like it.
Yeah, I should say right now it doesn't allow you to lock. Um, well, maybe you could if you if you didn't make a primary spending path. I've not thought about that, but generally the idea is you have your key or keys that are your normal spend set up, and those would be usable whenever to move the money. But the inheritance keys only are unlocked after a certain amount of time goes by, and the UTXOs have not moved. So that's the current functionality. But yeah, I mean, time locking, that would be an even more intense way um, to potentially give people an option, to force hodl or something, as you could call it. So
That does kind of take the pressure off if you're like, well, I can't sell because I
yeah,
time locked it. Like it's not really a choice of like, should I have sold or should I have not have sold? I was
right,
time locked. I had no option. So yeah.
And as
right,
soon as
right.
when we figure out decent Oracle systems, you can have CTs, so you could time lock them to when a Bitcoin hits a certain price or something.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
it's cool technology, man.
Cool, cool. Yeah, no, I appreciate the feedback. I will think and look into this idea of, doing like a actual lock feature. That's cool. Thank
They
you.
also could
And
be
Mel,
stolen. They'd be locked down. Yeah.
is Mel? So does Mel partner with exchanges or something? Is that what Blockstream are using? I was interested in how they're doing that.
Yeah, the last time I looked, at least they were using Meld. So Meld partners with, I guess, like I would probably call them more like on-ramp, off-ramp. Transact is one of them. There's a bunch of different partners. Depending on the country you're in, it's going to be different. I haven't seen like big exchanges like Coinbase or Kraken or things like that. So it seems to be more of a niche where companies provide this kind of service. But yeah, it's pretty neat. I'm also thinking down the road, I'd like to also look at a P2P, peer-to-peer market solution. And there's some cool things happening. I saw a guy from, I think he's from Nigeria, building something called Menmo, which looked quite cool. And he's actually using Noster for the communication layer, but he's basically, his vision is his mission is to build a censorship proof peer-to-peer, Bitcoin trading network kind
We
of
back
solution. So,
early on in Noster, there was a lot of talk about a local Bitcoins on Noster, and I
mm,
spoke to Jeremias, the actual creator of local Bitcoins, and I said, if Noster existed, would you have built local Bitcoins on Noster? And he said yes.
mhm,
So
mhm.
it's definitely low hanging fruit. So hopefully that guy does well and builds it, because it needs to exist. It'd be perfect
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, and he did a demo that looked quite good. So, and he's building, there would be APIs available and it's open source and everything. So, yeah, I'm thinking we'll look into, adding that to the wallet. But yeah, I mean, my vision is like I want people to be able to bank with Bitcoin as their primary asset and to interface with the rest of the financial world safely where they're holding keys for themselves and doing it the right way. And so, yeah, after many years of painful lessons, I even had used CoinCube. I had actually launched as a shitcoin product about a decade ago that connected to exchanges and did like a portfolio of crypto assets and rebalancing. And then I got completely wiped out, robbed of a lot of Bitcoin in 2018 on an exchange. And so, yeah, I've kind of learned all of the hard lessons, and I'm hoping that I can help people avoid those mistakes that I made. And so not your keys, not your coins, Bitcoin only. With that said, we will probably add in USDT support as well. I do see utility in stable coins. Of course, I prefer to do a completely Bitcoin sort of solution. There was like stable sats, looked quite interesting from Galoy, but that seems like that's kind of dead now. I had been looking into DLCs, 5 years ago, um, for a potential kind of synthetic solution, but I haven't looked at that lately. So yeah, anyway, we'll just see. But short term, we'll probably do USDT support. So
Ilya
that'll be
from
yeah.
so Stable Sats was actually a clone of something called Standard Sats, which was an incredible project which no one cared about
Mm,
because the developers who were working on it were deeply rude and autistic and rubbed everyone else
mhm,
up the wrong way. But the technology was cool as fuck.
mm,
And Stable Sats was basically like a clone of that, and it was kind of a shame that Gallo did that at the time. But with the synthetics, the synths stable coin. But
mm.
I know that Ilya from Standard Sats is working on something to create stable coins. I'll find his contact because I did speak to him a while back, and
Mm.
I'll point him in your direction.
Oh, I'd love to
Um,
speak with him.
he's a genius. Yeah, yeah. He's going to be the person who builds the solution at some point when he,
Mm, mm.
maybe he needs to be a bit more amenable when he's speaking to people. But
Sure,
the
sure.
kid's a genius.
Oh,
Well, it
good. Well,
sounds
yeah.
yeah, it sounds great, Robert, and people can check it out at coincube.io, and I'm sure you'll keep working on it and keep bringing back updates to us, and we'll have you back on
Yeah.
for that.
Thank you,
Let's go
Thomas.
to Victoria Jones for a prediction or a story of the week. Victoria, welcome back again. I know there's a lot of news this week. You just had to come back. Anything happening in your neck of the woods this week?
Yeah, well, obviously I've got family commitments that I need to that have been quite intense over the last 6 months. So I've really been focused on those. But I have just enough time to keep up with the gossip on Bitcoin, which is why I felt the need to come and join you guys in order to chat about it all today. But yeah, I don't have a specific prediction or any news at the moment. My website's still very much on pause. But hopefully I'll get around to creating something new for you all in the near future.
Well, that sounds great, and people can check it out at satoshispage.com. Let's go to Ben Ark for a prediction or a story of the week. Go ahead, Ben. Oh, Ben's muted, keeping us in suspense. What will it be?
Sorry, I was just closing all the notepads I had with my keys on before
Everyone
I shared
had to have a
screen.
turn this evening.
Right there, I'm trying to find the tweet. Not tweet, the other thing. Note. Ah. So, wait there. Request for AI. I don't want an AI companion. What's this? Oh, this is a Zoom thing? Okay, that's gone away. Where is it? Oh, it's not there. Oh, it's a bit lame. I'm trying to find a note from Wise Rabbit. So Wise Rabbit, for those of you who don't know, is this really artistic and interesting young person. Oh man, why isn't it pulling my latest notes? It's not annoying. I don't know if you could get him up on Twitter, Thomas. And he's been protesting outside the ECB for years. Every day he's there with a different banner saying something witty and funny about Bitcoin, and he just stands outside the ECB for like half an hour with this banner, and it drives him insane. And this week he actually got arrested because he went too close to the ECB building, and they pinched him on trespassing. So there was a note he put out on Nostr just asking for people to send some sats to help with legal stuff. And for me, when you see all the big finance, Bitcoin, blah 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 stuff happening in the world, to see, can you find him on Twitter, Thomas the Wise Rabbit? See if you can find it. It was a reminder that it's important to keep Bitcoin weird, and it is protest money. Let me see if I can. I really want to find the message that it is protest money. It's a reminder of what I loved about Bitcoin, that it's protest money, and he's boots on the ground every day outside the European Central Bank with these goofy signs, and it was quite funny because his actual mugshot was him. He was like holding like a helium balloon with an alien, which was holding up his middle finger as he was taking his mugshot. So he's a very artistic and interesting young person. So yeah, good luck to him. And yeah, I hope he gets through. And if you can dig out that tweet note, whatever, on Noster and send that kid some sats, that'd be great. Other than that, just been grinding hard in Allen bits. We got like a gazillion cool things to launch, and we're sort of they're all ending up being launched around about the same time. And we got some the merchant solution we now have in Allen bits is great. I use it in my own shop, and it can handle like Bitcoin payments, fiat payments, and it can like push to your bookkeeping solutions like QuickBooks or whatever, and then it DMs me every time there's a sale in the shop, so I get it on Noster and it DMs me, and we have like a chat thing. I'm going to make some videos and put them on the LM Bits YouTube, so watch out for those, because I think it's really useful, really useful kind of tool, and very cheap to run, and actually kind of puts LM Bits just out there as a competitive merchant solution just for points of sale, outside of Bitcoin. So yeah, looking forward to making those and finishing all those up. But apart from that, check out the Wise Rabbit and send him some sats.
That sounds great, Ben. Thanks for that update. This week, I got to try out ClaudeBot. Like many others, I bought a Mac Mini and I put this AI agent on there. I didn't find it especially easy to use or configure. Eventually, we did get Claude to talk to Claude. That's confusing. And we did get Claude to control the web browser, which was pretty exciting. We could ask it things like, who is Mad Bitcoins, or tell us what page is on the browser right now. And it told us all the information. It could manipulate all the data on the page. So if you wanted to say, take all of these columns and add them up from this web page, it could do that very easily. The main thing that I learned as a user is that it eats tokens like mad. The thing went through my $5 of Claude API time in no time at all. I gave it another $5 and it burned right through that as well. So a lot of people are spending most of their time configuring ClaudeBot to use another model. I've heard Kimchi is popular and that you could use that other model to control the computer. Of course, this leads to a lot of complicated configuration and noodling. So it's still very early. It's not a consumer product yet, but the idea of having a agentic AI that runs a computer that reports to you, that uses other AIs through the browser or through the computer, is still a very good one and a very exciting one. A lot of stuff's happening there, as Ben and Robert mentioned. Noster, there is a Claude or a Molt for Noster now. They're attempting to use it as one of their backends. I think it's a really good idea for their potential communications problems to use an open network like Noster. They've also used Moltbook this week, the Facebook for Claude bots or open Claude bots. And I can report to you that Moltbook was founded by Matt Schlecht. I probably said his name wrong, but he was an early Bitcoiner. He worked with Follow the Coin and he worked at Draper University, and I got to meet him a couple times. So a really small world out there of people messing around with computers. Matt had some really exciting AI projects before this. One of them was called Yes, No, Error. And he, or the AI, would basically analyze research papers, and where it could, it would test their conclusions. Yes, no, error. I thought it was a great idea. I thought that might go viral, but he's gone mega viral with Moltbook. So shout out to Matt. I'm sure he's doing great now. And if you want to try out ClaudeBot, let me know in the comments or the chat below if you had great success or not. I think a lot of the posts out there right now are like, Claude, did all my things, did all my trading, was perfectly magical. And I think those are made up. But there is stuff you can get done. It is a neat new technology. So try it out. Suggestion, of course, I'm sure don't try it out on your home computer. Get another computer, get another login, they have cloud workers at OpenFlare. Keep this thing away from your data. Like, we just don't know what it's going to do. It's deleted PhD's data. It's lost a key for Bitcoin recently. The chat with that was horrible. The guy said, "What happened to my key?" He's like, "You never told it to me." Oops, I goofed on that one, the AI says. So Ben, you have one more thing to say. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I managed to dig out the Noster note. So here he is. That's his mugshot, which I thought was great. And yeah, he's been boots on the ground in the rain and wind, stood there with his signs outside the European Central Bank, keeping Bitcoin weird. So here is a QR code to the Noster note. You can go there, zap him. I think it'll be greatly appreciated because I think he's in a little bit of trouble for, getting a little bit too close to the ECB.
And Starship agrees with us in the chat, says, yeah, they're not secure. Keep them on your own machine. He's not even sure he trusts a VM. There's been reports, we don't know if they're real, of these machines finding credit cards on the internet, ordering people food, texting their girlfriends, texting their wives, all kinds of things. A lot of things are happening. It's hard to tell which are real, which are stories. I think if it's too good to be true, it's probably a story. This thing is not a solve-all. It's not a cure-all. It is very exciting AI technology, though, and you can try it out for free. I suggest use an old laptop, use an old Mac Mini or something. Try it out. But let me know in the chat. They say the bots have also created a new religion, Crustafaria. So it's happening fast over there. They've made a porn hub for malt books. They've made an OnlyFans. They've made a LinkedIn. They have some new thing where the bots can pay humans to do things for them. So the human could bring them a pizza or have a protest sign outside, like Ben was saying. Maybe in the future, he can just pay people through one of these interfaces, or just have the bot say, I'd like you to solve world peace. And the bot just hires people to protest. Who knows? It's exciting stuff, but it's a lot more to configure than you might think. So check it out. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up down below. Push subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll be back again next week. Until next time, bye.
Bye.